after I returned from India and fasted for 40 days, I began to be open to a newer process of fasting and meditation, teaching spiritual nutrition. I eventually wrote my first book in 1986 called Spiritual Nutrition and the Rainbow Diet. And I always choose to follow directives. The work with spiritual nutrition was a guidance to me and a gift to me. And since then, it's become an important part of my teachings, my only world teachings around the world. I've taught in 42 different countries. Along the way, another energy still had to be resolved for me. So in 1970 or 72, something like that, I took an S program. The last program was Werner Erhard. And I had a vision during this program of 3 teachers who appeared to be men in white, but also the energies of Sai Baba of Shirdi and of Abraham, but also Crazy Horse. What? Crazy Horse? That sounds crazy to me. But nevertheless, part of me now began to get more and more interested. And as I've learned, the world is the spiritual teacher, number 1, and 2, follow those inner intuitions, particularly if they're going to elevate you spiritually. So I began to get interested in the sun dance. And as I researched it up, I found out that actually a lot of the Native Americans, some claim to be 95%, were vegan. We think about Native Americans about the buffalo and the plains. Well, obviously that was there too. And we also, as my research unfolded, I found out that the Cherokees and the Choctaws claimed to be 2 of the lost tribes. And then I began looking at the history of this, and one of the Cherokee grandmothers remembers her grandparents speaking Hebrew. So there's a strong belief in that, and when I visited the Hopi Reservation, there was an awareness, and it was also with Lakota Sioux. And so I began to get involved in the sun dance. And usually you are supposed to go and observe, but my style was, okay, I'm doing Sundance, I met the Sundance chief, I'm going to start. And so I did the Sundance for 4 years, it takes 4 years. And in each year I danced from a different direction, to be taking the energies of those different directions. Today is just kind of a little bit of an overview. And there's about 70 of us on the average who were dancing. And you're supposed to go without food and water for those 4 days. Well, I mean, that for me, that's not so hard. So it turns out I'm the only one, after 2 days, is still doing without food and water. It's like, okay. Next thing I know, my Sundance chief, Cam, is like watching me, because he really said, you're holding the energy now. Okay, fine, you know. I can't say it was that hard, because I'm used to going without food and water. So the Sundance brothers and sisters would kind of joke, because here I was, this live food, you know, vegan. It's like, what kind of trip is this? And they're mostly meat eaters. But after 3 years of being the only one to go without food and water, they began to change their mind, because they saw, wait, this works. So people began to shift that way. And that was kind of interesting, fun. The 4th year, at the very last moment, I decided to do what's known as the eagle dance. Now, the eagle dance is where you never leave the circle. And they put these kind of pieces of wood through your chest, tied to the Sundance tree, and you're tied to the tree for 24 hours for 4 days. You're connected to the tree. You're not physically tied to the tree, but you're attached to the tree through the rope on the tree that's attached to your chest. And I kind of, again, held the energy for people. There were 18 eagle dancers. And by the time we reached the end, I was the only one who, again, had gone without food and water, but also I never left the circle. Before the Sundance, I cheated a little bit. I took an enema, so I didn't have to have a bowel movement, and it was pretty easy. Okay, a little secret there, but, you know, it's legitimate. So I'm not needing to leave the circle, and I'm attached to the tree, and basically I'm standing from sunrise to sunset and sleeping on the ground, obviously at night, and still attached to the tree. That was fine, okay? But on the third day, it was really, really hot. And everybody had left the field because it was kind of hot and taking a break, including the other eagle dancers. And Cam tells the drummer, start drumming. And so, because again, I was kind of holding the energy, and he's drumming, and I'm dancing to it, tied to the tree, but dancing fast because the drumming was going fast. I was dancing to the drummer, and it wasn't a slow beat. And this went on for a while, and suddenly something happened. It's like a whole different energy came into me, and I started, this is day 3 now, without food and water, standing tied to, attached to the tree. I'm starting to feel really strong. It's like, what is going on here? So by day 4, I'm getting stronger. I usually get weaker, right? You're, haven't eaten for 4 days, and you're dancing nonstop. And there's a part where you break, where you pull back, and it pulls out from your chest, the pegs. And this is what people say. I don't exactly remember, but I kind of pulled back and did like a flip, backward somersault at least. That's what I think. People said I did a flip, but the point is something changed. And since that time even, I have felt that I'm getting younger and stronger. And it's like, our minds are very powerful. One of the things I learned about the sun dance is how powerful my mind can be. When I started the dance, because the eagle dance is a challenge, and again, as I say, out of 18, I was the only one. One of the brothers who was monitoring, but it was one of my Sundance brothers, he said, you're in your element. Because they knew I was enjoying this. This was not suffering from me, whatever. And I just grinned and said, yeah, I'm in my element, all right? And so one of the keys is I'm really having a good time doing these pretty intense ceremonies. And I think that's part of how we look at life. Sundance is an eagle dance is a metaphor for life. So for me, I'm having a good time. It doesn't matter if I'm standing from sunrise to sunset and I'm sleeping on the ground, just the bare ground, and without food and water. It's like, okay, I'm having a good time. That's kind of the metaphor for life. As we face the difficulties in life, or what we label as difficulties, when we face them with love and joy, and start having a good time, knowing everything that's being thrown at us is to help us grow spiritually, it changes how we experience what's actually, happening in the physical plane. So it was a great teaching for me to see that and to feel, hey, you're supposed to be getting weaker. No, I'm getting stronger. So how we look at the world is as you see it, the world is as you believe it to be, that was a profound lesson for me. And that has stayed with me since that time.